open a public hearing on House Bill 3349 and House Bill 3350. Council staff, can you please give a summary of the bills?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, House Bill 3349 adds to the authority of the State Forestry Department to control and regulate disposal and access of department vehicles and authorize the sale or transfer of ownership of state vehicles to Rangeland Protection Associations, among other items. It also creates the Rangeland Protection Association Fund and makes changes to the authority of the state forester. There is an amendment that's posted that just makes a few clarifying statements. HB 3350 is the measure that appropriates funding to the State Department of Forestry for the Rangeland Protection Association Fund. And there was an amendment on that which adds $1 million for the appropriation.
Rep. Owens, please introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Rep. Tran. Chair Rep. Tran, Vice Chair Lewis, Vice Chair Graber. For the record, Mark Owens, House District 60. Thank you for the consideration of House Bill 3349 and 3350. Representative Vicki Breeze and Iverson here are just to come up here and tell you thank you, because we have a lot of people behind us that are going to tell you a lot of good things. We appreciated the informational hearing in December. To give you a little background, Rangeland Fire Protection Association members are the biggest volunteer fire department in the state of Oregon. They do it on the shoestring budget. They are responsible for the first emergency response to fire. They have kept many, many fires small and put them out before they became catastrophic fires. Any support you could give us would be great, and I'll hand it over to Representative Vicki Breeze Iverson.
Thank you, Chair Tran, Vice Chairs Lewis, Graber, members of the committee. For the record, Vicki Breeze Iverson, House District 59, which is Central Oregon. And between the good Representative Owens and my district this last summer, we saw the largest amount of devastation in the wildfire season. The folks that are going to follow us and explain a little bit more in detail with some examples really just need to be acknowledged for what it is that they do on the landscape. They're the first responders, as Representative Owens mentioned. They're volunteers. They are trained for this, but they are farmers, ranchers, folks that live in these communities, and they show up to save their communities and to save their neighbors' properties. And this is something that they do because they believe in taking care of each other and taking care of Oregon. And it would be great if we could show these two bills a little bit of support to the vast amount of work that these folks do on the ground. So thank you for your time and for hearing this and the consideration today.
Thank you. Thank you. Former Senator Finley? Later? Next? You're going to close? All right. Ted Netter, Elizabeth Park, and Tom Doman.
And then you could say followed by John O'Keefe and Silas Skinner if you want.
Okay, we'll follow with John O'Keefe and Silas Skinner. Ted Netter, Elizabeth Park, and Tom Doman. What?
I asked if he's going to deploy a shelter.
I don't want to pack that thing back up.
Okay, please introduce yourself for the record and whoever wants to go first.
Ted Netter, Lower Bridge Rangeland Fire Protection Association. Chair Tran, committee members, I'm a pretty simple farmer and rancher, but when I'm not doing that, I'm the fire manager for our Rangeland Fire Association. Rangeland Fire Protection Associations cover 17,600,000 acres of Oregon. With 28 individual RFPAs, over 800 trained volunteer wildland firefighters, 400 support staff, and about 900 pieces of equipment. We are the largest firefighting force in the state. In 2024, we contributed over 45,000 volunteer fire suppression hours to the 1.9 million acres that burnt. Our parent or sponsoring agency is the Oregon Department of Forestry, and as such, the ODF approximately gives us $300,000 to cover administrative and liability insurance only. All other RFPA funding comes from our membership dues, donations, a single federal volunteer fire capacity grant that we may or may not receive on the year. The majority of our vehicles and large equipment, they come from federal sources. We're talking hand-me-down military rigs that we turn into highly effective firefighting apparatus. Small amount of donations do come from local fire and to cover our vehicle needs. But really, why we're here is because our parent or sponsoring agency doesn't have the ability to transfer vehicles, supplies, or operational funding to RFPAs. Really, we're hoping that with your support of House Bills 3349 and 3350, that we can change that.
Thank you.
Go
Ms.
ahead.
Fark?
Good afternoon, Chair Tran, Vice Chairs Grayburn and Lewis, and the rest of the committee. I'm Elizabeth Park. I'm a Board of Director, Secretary Treasurer of WC Ranches, RFPA, and Wheeler County. WC Ranches was established in 2015, dedicated to protect our community. We're made up of 31 volunteers. We have 8 firefighting vehicles with the RFPA, with another 17 that are member-owned firefighting equipment. Between membership dues, grants, and insurance, we operate on a budget of $19,900 a year. $10,000 of that is from the grant money, the VFC grant. Will we get it or will we not get it? A lot of times, no, we don't get it. I was asked to come here today to respond on the Lone Rock Fire, which was in Wheeler County. WC Ranches responded to 9 fires in 2024, including the 137,000 acres of the Lone Rock Fire. Our RFPA started out basically as mutual aid outside of our boundary, helping protect homes and other structures. Our backburn request was denied by an interagency fire team, so we took the action upon ourselves within our boundaries and completing a successful backburn. The next night, another strategic backburn with our experienced volunteers saved 9 real homes in the community of Spray, which is a population of 138 people. Our experiences prevented further disaster. Within that Lone Rock Fire, WC Ranches alone had 4,058 hours. Our other 2 RFPAs, Wheeler County Fire and Rescue and Twickenham, brought that total to a little over 7,000. With the 37 pieces of equipment that we had within our association from what was owned by personal and the government and RFPA is how we fought the fire. Our fuel costs were over $13,000. And that comes out of our budget of the $19,900. We do not get repaid for any fuel costs. What would it accomplish a government agency to have fought what we fought for WC Ranches and the other 2 RFPAs? What would it cost Oregon to do that? Like I said, grant funding is not always available. We are unable to do long-range planning, like even 5-year planning, because of our budgets. Our RFPAs provide even more assistance on these fires and work safer and more efficiently if we had additional state excessive equipment and funding to help us. We feel strongly that House Bills 3349 and 3350 would be a great accomplishment for our RFPAs.
Thank you. Questions? Do you have a question? Go.
Thank you, Chair. Just so folks can understand, if you wouldn't mind sharing like the age range of the vehicles that you have that have been donated to you and maybe the hours of engine time on those or miles, because I know they're That's high and they're old.
The first Humvees that we received are 2006, 2007, and we received 2 more this year, which we didn't just receive. We have to pay at least $300 to get them in our possession, and then it takes another $8,000 to $10,000 to turn those into firefighting equipment. Tires are very hard to get for these military equipment. So when we receive these vehicles, we do not know whether they're going to run or whether they're going to be great. So we have to accept them as they are.
Quick follow-up.
Follow-up.
Thank you, Chair. Who is responsible for doing the maintenance on those, and how much is that costing you all?
I can't give you cost, but it's the volunteers. The first 4 Humvees and the 1078 that came into WC Ranches, my husband and I are the ones that turned those with our volunteer hours into firefighting equipment. That means making the tanks, welding the tanks, adding all the other accessories that make a firefighting vehicle. It's very time consuming.
So in Lower Bridge, we still run a 1967 Kaiser 6x6 military truck that was first in service with Tiller Trail. And we have 3 qualified operators of that unique piece of equipment, but it responds to fires every year.
At the Crane RFPA, we have a 1971 6x6 that responds. Takes a special individual to start it and keep it running.
Rep. Lewis?
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering, are fire protection associations or districts eligible for SPIRE grants? I don't know if they are or not.
Have you received any equipment from the Spire grant program? So, they're not doing, I don't know if they're qualified, but they haven't
Have
received
to
it.
look into that. Yeah.
Who are you looking for?
I'm just looking in the back row to see if there's any nods or, no? It's okay, great. Thanks. We don't know.
We got to change something. Sir?
Good afternoon, Chair Tran, Vice Chairs Graber and Lewis, and members of the committee. My name is Tom Doman. I'm Vice Chair of the RFPA in Crane and Harney County. The Crane RFPA covers 1.9 million acres and operates on an annual budget of $42,000, funded by $30,000 of membership dues and $12,000 from Oregon Department of Forestry reimbursements. We have 13 Type 6 trucks, heavy trucks of 1,000 gallons or more, 12 Type 4 Hummers, 2 tenders, and 4 trailers with 148 tires on the ground. We responded to 37 fires this summer. I have a whole speech here, and I'd refer you to look at the slide because I'm gonna get off of this. I want to get a little bit personal. I personally had 270 volunteer hours, me and my sons, on the telephone and Falls Fire. You're familiar with those. We helped neighbors haul cows out, and we witnessed neighbors lose over 500 cows on those fires and property and damage. One night, we were coming home off of that fire, me, a brother, and a son, in 3 Hummers, and watched 4 lightning strikes hit the ground and start fires. As the local RFPA, we were able to receive the dispatch from the BLM dispatchers, and we were dispatched to those fires. 4 RFPA Hummers put out 4 fires in one night that we don't know if they would have been catastrophic fires, they would have added. The next day, there was a fire on Cow Creek. There was a bigger fire that RFPAs responded to and put out completely before it merged with the Falls Fire. We have an amazing group of volunteers that put in a lot of hours, and I would urge you, I would plead with you to support these bills and create a method for us to receive some funding. There is a lot of dedicated people that try really hard to protect their neighbors, friends, property, all of it. I plead that you would support these.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. John O'Keefe, Silas Skinner.
I would like to ask you to go to where I downloaded also a much lengthier outline of WC ranches.
Okay, thank you. Former Senator Finley, would you like to come up also?
It's hard to say former, isn't it?
He looks rested.
Smile.
He's smiling.
Please introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you. Chair Tran, Vice Chair Graber, Vice Chair Lewis, members of the committee. I am John O'Keefe. I ranch in Adel, Oregon, Warner Valley, Lake County. I've been president of the Warner Valley Rangeland Fire Protection Association since it was formed in 2011. I currently serve on the Wildfire Programs Advisory Council for the state of Oregon. I represented industry on the recently completed USDA Wildland Fire Mitigation and Management Commission that sent a report to Congress last year with 149 recommendations for the wildfire crisis. I've been heavily involved in the wildfire discussion for the last few years. The last several seasons have shown us that we must be ready to fight fire. Oregon Rangeland Fire Protection Associations have been a big part of this effort. RFPAs have a mutual assistance agreement with government agencies, BLM, Oregon Department of Forestry, and in some cases, U.S. Forest Service, to provide unpaid mutual assistance during initial attack. The funding model for RFPAs, for the most part, supports this level of engagement. In brief, this funding model, agencies transfer required government fighting equipment to RFPAs. RFPAs assess voluntary dues to the private landowners in their area, and grants, when awarded, allow RFPAs to augment their income. Equipment given by government agencies after its useful service life requires additional maintenance. Volunteer dues only go so far. Grants are specific, targeted, and not always available. There are more needs than there are grants, and this was pre-Dodge. We're entering new times. In years when fire activity is above average, government resources are tapped out. RFPAs take up the slack and engage in extended attack. The funding model that serves us well for initial attack falls short when it comes to extended attack. RFPA members will not let their neighbors' places and their own places burn. They will not stand by and watch those places burn. When funding runs out, the members purchase fuel and other necessities out of ranch operating budgets. They stay on extended attack. Sometimes they get paid back for this, sometimes they don't. I have seen this, I've done this. RFPAs are a very efficient fighting force. They train on their own time. They fight fire all day for the cost of the fuel it took to get them to the fire. And they live close to the fire. Fire money spent through RFPAs goes a long way. There are instances when RFPA involvement was instrumental in stopping a fire. Sometimes the RFPAs are on their own. Sometimes they are working with agency partners. RFPAs have made a difference many times. Anyone who has served on an RFPA knows of a time when they made a difference. I know I do. The Warner Valley Rangeland Fire Protection Association put out a spot fire 2 miles in front of the Crane Fire in 2020. RFPAs engage in many fires every year. Some of these fires would have gone big and cost millions of dollars. The savings are real and the savings are large. Clearly, we need additional ways to support RFPAs. RFPAs are doing this without a tax base. RFPAs have to purchase protective equipment and other safety equipment out of minimal budgets. We need ways to enhance funding for RFPAs. House Bill 3349 does this. House Bill 3350 does this. Please support these bills and help us, help ourselves, and help Oregon get through this wildfire crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Chair Tran, Vice Chair Graber Lewis, and members of the committee. My name is Silas Skinner. I'm a sixth-generation rancher from Jordan Valley, Oregon. I am currently the president of the Jordan Valley RFPA, an organization we started with the help from the Oregon Department of Forestry in 2007. I'm here today to ask for support for House Bill 3349 and 3350. The Jordan Valley RFPA is a strictly volunteer rangeland fire protection group made up of 100 ranchers that are trained to fight rangeland fires from around the Jordan Valley area. Although we have received a few grants over the years and some equipment through the forestry department, the ranchers and landowners shoulder the biggest share of the costs in stopping the fires in our area. The Jordan Valley RFPA has been credited in saving millions and millions of acres from burning. Firefighting is an extremely expensive endeavor, which we accrue each and every year. This past year, I received phone calls and texts from the BLM telling us we are stretched too thin across the state with all the fires, and we do not have the resources available to help you. Your RFPA is going to have to do the best it can until we can get you help. This has happened many times in the past few years with the growing amount of fires we've been having. On July 24th, we had a lightning storm come through our area, which this year it lit multiple fires. Having been in contact with BLM, we were aware we were the only line of defense. The RFPA put out several fires the first night in the Owyhee Canyon and continued to monitor these fires until the BLM was able to get a couple trucks and a helicopter there. However, we had to fire the hole in the ground fire, which started in the Owyhee Canyon, which is extremely steep, no way in or out except fire can get out. It came out in the following morning and quickly grew to 95,000 acres, which is the size of 95,000 football fields in a matter of hours. The power of these fires and the speed in which they travel is mind-blowing. On the third day of this fire, the RFPA had 35 resources on the fire and had put in 25 miles of fire line with four-wheelers and our trucks. Had we not got the line around the fire that night, there's no doubt in my mind it would have grown into one of the largest fires in recent history. The amount of money it would have cost our state is unimaginable. To give you some costs, we ruined 9 tires on our converted Army trucks, which cost us $23,000 to replace, and we have a budget every year of about $30,000. So it took all that, most of it. The fuel and wear on the trucks comes directly from the ranchers. With additional funding and equipment, I feel we can do a better job protecting our public and private lands in Oregon. If we can respond quickly and with more equipment, I know we will be a lot more effective and efficient. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you, Chair Tran, Vice Chair Graber, and Vice Chair Lewis, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Lynn Finley, and I live in Malheur County. I'm here in strong support of House Bill 3349 and 3350 and encourage your support. There are companion bills with 3349 and 3350 linked together, with 3350 being the funding mechanism, I'm sure you know. The Rangeland Fire Protection Association has been around for over 7 decades in one form or another, and they are a critical resource for wildland fire protection. Previous speakers have given you details about numbers and other stuff, and I'm not going to repeat that. A couple of sections, these are pretty small, concise bills. Section 2 of 3349 talks about the authorization of the state forester to transfer the ownership of depreciated equipment and vehicles related to fire suppression, either by sale or by donation. Right now, they are prohibited from doing that. They can only sell the equipment on the open market. So we build equipment in Oregon that works in Oregon, and we sell it to other areas, and it's not right. This would allow that donation to a Rangeland Fire Protection Association upon terms that are mutually agreed to by the state forester and the Rangeland Association of what they can afford. Section 3 allows the state forester to provide funding to the Rangeland Protection Association. As many of you know, I spent 32 years fighting wildland fires throughout the United States. And I retired as a senior fire and aviation manager with the Bureau of Land Management. During my career, I participated in several critical incidents, both serious incident and fatal accidents. One of the first things you do when a team goes in and looks at a fatal accident is what caused this and what are the contributing factors to it. And you look at equipment, you look at communications. We're asking these folks to go out there and fight our fires with us, and we're not providing communication tools for them to talk to us. So when you have significant weather events come in, you can't talk to them. You know, they buy $30 radios so they can talk to each other, but they can't afford a King radio to talk back and forth into command structure. I think if we have a significant incident, you can't pass a red face test. We're not providing these folks with the resources they need to provide the action that we're doing. As resources become more critical, wildland fires become larger, we rely more on the cooperators. With RFPAs, when RFPAs were developed, it was provided to provide immediate initial attack on their land and adjacent land around them. Fast forward to current, we now rely on them providing extended attack on large fires and put them in the operational plans to do just that. We have a funding mechanism, a structure mechanism that is only for initial attack. We're putting them in our shift plans and having them do a lot of work that's well outside their role, well outside their mission, and we're not paying them for it. We're not reimbursing them. I had a rancher that on the Cow Valley fire spent $7,000 in fuel out of his pocket for the equipment. He didn't seek reimbursement because he couldn't. He's not whining about it. I had to pry the number out of him because that's what they do. But we just need to step up and do the right thing. These are incredible bills. We direct them to fight fire without properly equipping them and very often without the ability to communicate with them. This is a huge, huge firefighter safety issue. The state of Oregon has the excess equipment, just lacks the authority to provide these folks who are willing partners and want to do the job with that equipment. These are great bills, and I encourage your support. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Short, because we have to, one more bill, okay? But
Okay.
quick question.
Thank you, Chair Tran. Well, you get farmers, ranchers, and firefighters together, you're going to get results.
That's not a question.
If you have, well, I have a comment, if I
Okay,
may.
okay.
I'll keep it short, thank you. But a couple of things. Good to see you again, all of you. You mentioned wildfire crisis, and I don't think we can say that often enough. Back to the resources that we need. I'm just really thankful for these bills. Earlier today, you heard Senator Brock Smith mention insurance, and our fire season is going from an average 10 years ago, 120 days a season, give or take, and now we're pushing up over 150 days. And he mentioned the insurance. Everything that we do in the legislature is going to help short-term and long-term, I believe, very strongly in the insurance, almost at the crisis stage. California's in an insurance crisis stage, which started before the LA fires.
Senator Rep. Boyce.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
I'm going to conclude with this.
Well, I want to say thank you to all the members of the Rangeland Protection Association member. We'll come back to this. We have one more bill. If we don't get him on, we can't move bills forward, okay? But we will close the hearing on these two bills right now, and we will reopen for the 4 people that have signed on for testimony. So if you are online for these two bills, House Bill 3349 and 3350, please hang on. I will now close the public hearing on House Bill 3349 and House Bill 3350. I'll open it later and reopen House Bill 3349 and House Bill 3350. Mr. Bingham, are you online? No. Miss Susan Hemreck. Please introduce yourself for the record, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. My name is Susan Hermrich. I'm a Crook County Commissioner. I'm also a hay and cattle rancher and a member of the Post Paulina Rangeland Fire Protection Association. This year, our association was involved in many major fires: the Durgan Fire, Crazy Creek, Wiley Flat, and Rail Ridge Fire. The Durgan Fire was contained on private land and consumed 3,000 acres. Crazy Creek started on federal, swept down on private, and ended up burning over 86,000 acres. The same held true for Wiley Flat at approximately 30,000 acres and Rail Ridge at over 176,000 acres. Our RFPA had a total of 11,000 private acres burned, with 3,500 federal acres contained within our boundaries. This adds up to over 14,000 acres. We managed to extinguish a total of 11 fires, some before they could even begin, highlighting the crucial need for HB 3349 and HB 3350, which will bring vital resources to protect rural communities like ours. Our volunteers and ranchers fought for 2,600 fire suppression hours with 45 people involved. Personal ranch vehicles traveled 5,191 miles. PPRFA owns 5 vehicles, but the rest of our equipment is privately owned. That includes dozers, water pumpers, graders, water trucks, and anything else that can provide firefighting help. At one time, the wind-driven fire jumped a 10-dozer wide fire break and was headed for the town of Paulina. Our ranchers fought fire for over 3 weeks during a time when we should have been putting up hay and weaning calves. We had people from the Prineville Food Insecurity Group coming and going with donations of Gatorade, water, and food to help our efforts. It truly took a village to save our ranches and forests. We are your first lines of defense. Please support our efforts to stop these fires before they become catastrophic. I strongly ask you to support House Bill 3349 and 3350, and I thank you very much for hearing my testimony today.
Thank you. Mr. Derek Burkhart.
He might have had to leave.
Mr. Daniel Whalen. Thank you for your patience. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Chair Tran, co-chairs Graber and Lewis, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Daniel Whalen, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Sustainable Northwest. Sustainable Northwest strongly supports House Bill 3349 and House Bill 3350 that will create the Rangeland Protection Association Fund. These bills will allow Rangeland Fire Protection Associations to purchase firefighting equipment from the Oregon Department of Forestry and allocate $1 million from the State General Fund to RFPAs for equipment, training, and other firefighting needs. Sustainable Northwest works with over 120 ranchers on 7 million acres in 11 western states, including Country Natural Beef's 100 producers and many other family and tribal ranchers. The 2024 fires burned 1.7 million acres of rangelands in Oregon. Those fires hurt landowners and ranchers that we work with and many others, burning cattle, fences, structures, grazing lands, and sensitive sagebrush and bunchgrass ecosystems that will take years to recover. RFPAs are our first line of defense against initial starts that can become catastrophic wildfires and are a critical component of Oregon's coordinated wildfire response system. RFPAs are all volunteer teams that work with little but accomplish a lot, fighting rangeland fires for their neighbors, their communities, and the public and private lands on which all Oregonians depend. HB 3349 and HB 3350 are common sense, cost-effective pieces of legislation to provide RFPAs resources to protect their communities and the landscapes we all use for food production, energy production, ecosystem services, and recreation in the face of increasing wildfires. We urge you to support House Bill 3349 and House Bill 3350-1 amendment.